What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Basement Poetry Podcast. Today, I have a poem for you guys by Langston Hughes. The poem is called Dinner Guest Me. Langston Hughes is definitely one of the most revered poets of any generation. He was a big figure in the Harlem Renaissance and just an amazing poet. His musicality and his language is something to be noticed. Yeah, but this is how the poem goes. I know I am the Negro problem, being wined and dined, answering the usual questions that come to white mind, which seeks demurely to probe in polite way the why and wherewithal of darkness, USA. Wondering how things got this way in current democratic night, murmuring gently over phrase du bois, I'm so ashamed of being white. The lobster is delicious, the wine divine, and center of attention at the damask table, mine. To be a problem on Park Avenue at 8 is not so bad. Solutions to the problem, of course, wait. Yeah, so I just think this poem is so relevant to today and what we see. And one of the lines that, makes me feel that way is when he says, wondering how things got this way in current democratic night. That kind of hit me hard. I always think like people assume that one political party means certain things are going to go a certain way, and to some degree there may be some truth in that, but I don't think that as it pertains to racism, I don't think we've ever seen a huge, breaking down of the system, the systematic racism because of a particular political party. I don't think that has, I think, obviously certain political parties can make things worse. I think we're all seeing that now. But, to say, even if there was a full democratic system, we would still be asking, like, how did things get this way? Why is it so bad? And I think that's what he was asking there. And when I read this poem, I just see, I see Langston Hughes at dinner with, a bunch of probably Caucasian people, and then them kind of trying to, that line, I'm so ashamed of being white. There's this, like, and we see that a lot today, with people. They try, it's easy for a white person to try to go from one end of the spectrum and then go to the other end of the spectrum out of, like, I have to completely denounce the fact that I ever thought this way, and I'm so ashamed of, and I get it. But it's interesting that the same issues that he's going through here, and almost this, like, ignorance of the problem being the issue, is still something that we're going through today. Yeah, and that the end of the poem ends, and it says, solutions to the problem, of course, wait. It's one thing to bring up the problem. It's one thing to understand the problem. it's a whole different story, actually finding solutions to the problem. And so that's the battle we face. And he just lays it out so clearly here. He's very specific in his use of certain words to try to really paint the picture of this table that he's at, and using murmuring gently over phrase du bois. And it's like this, you kind of get this like bougie feeling that's at this table. The lobster is delicious, the wine divine, and the center of attention at the damask table. Like, everything is so detailed, the type of table it is. We got lobster, we got wine, they're not just wild strawberries, they're phrase du bois. You see what I'm saying? Like, there is so much in this poem that kind of shows what the focus is, like where the focus is, and then the kind of underlying problem, which is the main problem, not just at this dinner table here, but in society, is kind of being overlooked by all the fancy things, and the fact that he's even there and able to eat with them. It's like, oh, they're making steps, but in reality, to be a problem on Park Avenue at 8 is not so bad. So that is Dinner Guest Me by Langston Hughes. I hope you enjoyed that poem, and yeah, I definitely plan to read more poetry by Langston Hughes in the future. This poem came from a collection of his poetry I have called Vintage Hughes. I got this collection a long time ago. I think I was in my undergrad when I got this collection, and so it's still, I kind of take it with me wherever I go, and it's always a place I can go to find relevance. There's always something relevant in this book, so I highly recommend Vintage Hughes and Langston Hughes' poetry as a whole. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Basement Poetry Podcast, and I'll be back in a few days with another poem.